Stability AI's stable video is finally here, and if you're a ComfyUI user, you can try it out for yourself. So first off, we need to download the models, links in the description below. There's two versions. The first one you'll see is an SVD safe tensor model. You just have to click on download here and make sure you save them in your checkpoints folder in ComfyUI. They are pretty big, 9.5 gigabytes. And then the second one is an XT version. And basically the difference is the SVD version generates 14 frames, whereas the XT version generates 25 frame videos. Obviously, you're going to get a smoother result from the XT version. Now on this page, underneath these examples, if you right click, these are the JSON files where you could just drag it onto ComfyUI. And you want to right click over it, save link as, and you'll see from the name of this file, this is image to video. So save this in a location where you can retrieve it later. The second one below is slightly different. We save link as, you see the workflow is text to image to video. And I'll show you the differences in a sec. So I already have a setup here, but I'm going to show you when you drag the image to video workflow. There you go. You see that it's going to set you up already. However, you may or may not have the proper nodes and you might have to update ComfyUI. So in your manager, click on manager and make sure to update ComfyUI or just update all. If you have nodes that are in red and you're missing stuff, all you have to do is click install missing custom nodes, and then it'll show you which nodes to use. And then you would just have to install those nodes. One of the nodes I want you to install is ComfyUI Video Helper Suite. The node is called VHS Video Combine. So go ahead and install that. Make sure to shut down and restart ComfyUI. That one's important for saving your video. So if we double click on the workspace here, type in VHS, you'll see once you've installed it, you have Video Combine here. I'm actually going to rearrange this because my screen space is somewhat limited here. And this is great because we can save it in a different format. By default, it's a WebP format. So you can do a GIF if you wanted to, ProRes, AVI. I'm going to choose H.264 MP4. You can do 265 as well. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go SVD as the file name, and we'll leave everything else for now. This workflow is actually pretty simple. First, we want to make sure our checkpoint is loaded. So I'm going to use the SVD first for this demo. And then we have a load image section here. So just click on that. We're going to open up this one. Video linear CFG guidance. Basically what this is that it's going to start with a CFG at 1. And depending on your motion on the last few frames, it's going to be at like 2.5, for example. And it's said to improve the sampling between frames. I really haven't played with this. I find at 1 it's fine, but you can go ahead and experiment with it. In terms of the conditioning, you can only use a resolution of 1024 by 576. The video frames is already set to 14. You could change this if you want to increase the duration, or if you're using the XT model, you could increase that to 25. I've set this to 48 to get longer duration. Motion bucket, simply the more motion you're going to get. Frames per second relates to how smooth the video is going to be. So ideally, videos you see on YouTube or in the theater are 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. 6 is going to be pretty choppy, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Augmentation level adds noise to the image, so the higher it is, the more it's going to change the initial image, but it also adds motion as well. Sampler settings, knowing stable diffusion, it acts the same way. 20 is fine just to start. Of course, if you want to go higher steps, you could definitely do that. Lower CFG here helps. I've found between 1.5 to 3. Again, you can experiment. Faster samplers are encouraged, like Euler. By default, it puts it on the Keras, so I leave it. I've tried normal, not much of a difference. And leave denoise at 1. In your preview window here, this is where you could rename it to anything you want. Leave the frames per second at 6 to match what's up here for now. Quality, you can leave it at 85. You could even lower it if you're just testing it out, or if you have a lower VRAM graphics card. Method, you could put it on the slowest for better quality, fastest just for previewing, just to speed it up, right? And then the node that we added started, let's remember to grab the image node here and connect it to video combine. I've already set the format and we're going to change the frame rate to 6. So I'm going to run this and I'm going to show you how it looks. With this setting, it takes about 2.5 minutes, maybe just over, on my 3060 8GB card. But I tell you, it's going to be choppy. If we increase the frames per second here and the video frames, now you're looking at double the time. I was trying to run one at 24 frames per second. It was like 12 to 15 minutes for like 4 seconds of video, and I'm not doing that. Now, while that runs in the background, this is the same settings and the image was just a burning house, and you can see the animation and the motion in it, but at 6 frames per second, it's going to be pretty choppy. And at 14 frames, technically, I'm only getting 2 seconds worth of video. So if you were to use this model at 6 frames per second, but you want 4 seconds, you got to bump up the video frames. Just remember, the higher you go, the longer it's going to take, all right? So waiting 10 or 15 minutes for a few seconds of video isn't worth it for me. So here we go. You can see it's zooming out, but it's super choppy at 6 frames per second. Now, the other thing you can do, this is the other workflow where it's text to image to video. And basically, it's the same concept, except what we just looked at is this area, but now you have an area here to prompt something from scratch. Now, let me be clear, this isn't to prompt how the video acts, it's just to prompt the preview image, and then it'll load that image and bring it into the same workflow we just looked at. So you just have an extra step here. And really, the settings are up to you. It's like generating your standard stable diffusion image. I just use SDXL base model. The prompt was just photograph of a burning house, 1024 by 576, 30 steps, CFG of 6, sampler DPM++, 3M SDE Keras. But this time I use the SVDXT model. I used 48 video frames, motion bucket of 200, and FPS of 12, augmentation level of 0.4. The sampler I pretty much left the same. I find it works pretty well. And then we see the result here. So you see it's not as choppy. The fire and the smoke animation is really good. Unfortunately, I'm just very limited with my graphics card. So as of now, there really isn't any camera motion or any ways to control that. You really just have the motion bucket ID to play with. Go as high as 400, 500, play around with the augmentation level. And if your graphics card can handle it, you can increase the frames per second. 24, 30 is the highest, but when you do that, remember, you have to increase your video frames if you want longer duration. Now, bear in mind that this is not to be used commercially. It's just being used for research purposes. But this is a good sign that a commercial model might be in the horizon in the next few months for us to use, and I'm hoping it's going to be more efficient for us lowly GPU users. But as always, I'll let you guys know as soon as I hear myself. In the meantime, if you want to experiment with AI video, make sure you check out this video on Pika Labs. Until the next one, I'll see you when I see you.